Hello and good morning. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. And yes, we will be doing the show today. We're a little later because we're doing some other stuff, but we are still here. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and tag a few people who asked to be tagged in this.
Hope everybody's outside, enjoying the weather if you can. Barbecuing or spending time with others. Go outside, get some sunlight, vitamin D. Take vitamin C, take zinc. Just helps. Somebody's outside jamming.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Okay, almost done here. I should have made a faster way to do this. And should I make... Okay, Bess is here.
Hello. All right, so we're going to get this started. So as many of you know, we've been going over the book Winning with People by John Maxwell. Today we're on the trust question. Can we build mutual trust? So the glory of friendship is not the outstretched hand. It's not the kindly smile nor the joy of companionship. It is the spiritual inspiration that come to one when you discover that someone else believes in you and is willing to trust you with a friendship. So that was by Ralph Emerson. So how do you define trust? According to the dictionary, trust is a firm belief or confidence in the honesty, integrity, reliability, justice of another person. So you may not know what trust is, but we definitely know what it isn't. So other than lying, stealing, or causing physical harm, there are many other ways that you could lose trust with a person. So to which we need to ask ourselves, what kind of person do I need to become in order to be worthy of another person's trust? And those are the questions that we're going to be going over today. This is a really neat chapter. And now we're actually going to be going over 2 chapters today because this one was more the introductory. So we're going to jump right back into the next chapter. So the next one is the bedrock principle. So trust is the foundation of any relationship. So it's greater complement to trust than it is to be loved. And that was by George MacDonald. So you want to ask yourself, am I worthy of another person's trust? Am I a trustworthy person? So if you don't have trust, your relationship is in trouble, and here is why. So trust is the foundation of any relationship, and integrity is the basis of trust, so which is not so much the ingredient of leadership as it is a product. So it is the one quality that can't be acquired, but it must be earned. So if given by coworkers and followers or without it, a leader can't function. So without any trust in your organization, people are not going to follow you, and they're not going to listen because people will not lean on you if they do not trust you. They will not take that leap of faith to go do something when they're uncomfortable if they do not trust you. So developing trust is oh, there we go. I just typed that wrong. So developing trust is like constructing a building. If it takes a lot of time and it must be done piece by piece, and it's much easier to tear down than it is to bring up. But if you have a solid foundation, the chances that something that it's going to withstand a storm is much greater. So trust is the frame of any relationship. So relationships are like kind of like a painting that John described. Trust is like the frame that surrounds and holds it together and provides the context to which to view the artwork. Trust defines its boundaries, and trust secures the walls so that way it can be enjoyed. So trust provides emotional structure, and if you want to enjoy the beauty of relationships, you need to frame them with trust. The next one, trust is the high of any relationship. So when two people trust each other or trust each other completely, relationships can grow to a level of friendship that is more rewarding than anything in life. So when you do find those people, it's very enjoyable to have that person that's always going to have your back no matter what. They've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and they're always going to be there. But that takes time to develop those relationships, and sometimes it takes years. So those are the things that, like, everybody has had that one person in their life, or that is my best friend. They're there no matter what. They're there for me to lean on. They're there when I need help. And it's good to have those relationships, and those just take time, and you need to work on having those relationships with people. Hello, how are you doing? Sean. Hello. So that is what I have for this chapter today. And Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you for earning trust with others. Do you need my notes?
Well,
Hold on, we got to find our notes here.
It might not let me.
Anywho, while we're waiting on him, are any of you guys doing anything fun today for Memorial Day? I know we're kind of stuck at home, but I know some parks are open, some restaurants are opening back up, so I don't know what they're doing.
Bedrock principle. No, it won't let me go any further in my notes. That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
So I sent it over.
I think I have it bookmarked.
Bedrock principle?
Yep. Back.
Hold on one second. So it's this one.
Yep, you're right here. Unless you want to review what I just went over.
The one thing that I have to say about trust actually comes from the 21 laws of leadership. Trust is basically earned over time. It can be lost in a second, but it takes forever to gain. So, especially in business, when you're dealing with people on a regular basis, it's going to take an enormous amount of effort for some people. And if you look at the 4 different personalities to gain trust, think about this. The people-oriented people who are interested in gaining somebody's trust, the S-type personality automatically wants to trust, usually, unless they've been hurt, burnt, remind something, because S-type personalities can also hold grudges. So they're going to be more likely to want to trust, but more selective on who they trust. The I-type personality, on the other hand, is going to trust very quickly, which gets them in trouble. They're like, oh, this person's going to help me, I'll trust them. Yeah, but they have a history of messing up. They have a history of being just trustworthy. But if they're going to help the I-type personality, the I-type person is like, woo, let's do it anyway. And then they get burnt, and they get burnt over and over and over again. It's scary to me how many times I have that conversation with I-type personalities that get themselves into things because they trusted, and they're like, I don't know why I didn't see the signs. It's because your personality is so geared towards people, and that switch of let's go is so fast, you don't evaluate or analyze enough stuff. That's just how it works. So the I-type personality is going to be very, very quick to make that decision. Michael, how's it going? They're going to be very quick to make that decision of trust and then get themselves in trouble. The D-type personality is going to be one way or the other, depending on the situation. If it's something they know they can do, if it's something they know they can control, also, they're going to be very quick to trust. It's not so much that the personality is geared towards people and they want to trust, it's that their personality is geared towards control. And if they feel that they're going to get control of a situation, or they think they can maintain control, they'll probably enter that situation even though it might not be the best for them, which is unfortunate, right? So when it comes to building a business, and you're working with these different personalities, then you have the C-type personality. The C-type personality is probably going to take the longest to build trust with. Why? Because they are going to analyze, they are going to question, and they don't necessarily need an enormous amount of people, and they don't need approval usually to do the things they're doing. So the C-type personality will take the longest. Marty, how's it going? Teresa, hello. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. So, Jennifer Banks, okay. So getting messages. So that's kind of the circle of personalities dealing with trust. So think about this. If you want to build trust with each one of these people, what do you have to do? With a D-type personality, the more you're letting them control the situation, or not necessarily control, but choose. There are ways, and this is where high-level persuasion comes in. High-level persuasion. High-level persuasion means you understand people's personalities, you understand people's temperaments, you understand people's learning, like how they learn and what they appeal to, and you can present information in a way in which, if you know their personality, you probably have the ability to sway them one way or another 80 to 90% more effectively than the average person. So with the D-type personality, they're looking for control. They're looking for challenge. So presenting an idea to them in a way which they will have those two factors. Andrew, what's happening? Thank you for your service. Happy Memorial Day. It's kind of amazing that, you have one or the other. And you have that ability to be able to persuade that person. The I-type personality appeal to their fun, imaginative, exciting personality of, oh my gosh, we're going to be able to meet all these people and, these great people, and they're going to be famous. And most of the time they're like, okay, I'll go. It's very easy to persuade and gain their trust temporarily. But then to keep their trust, obviously you have to do certain things. Like what Brandy talked about, keeping your word, doing what you say you're going to do, making sure. But the person you really have to trust and get to trust is yourself. That's the main one. Go around the S-type personality. How do you gain trust? And this works for all of them. Compliments, compliments, compliments. You can gain somebody's trust very, very quickly by complimenting them at what they do, where they do, how they do. The I-type personality is very usually focused on image. So being able to compliment how they look, what they wear, what they choose, what they drive, makes them feel good. The same thing is true with the D-type personality. They're usually very into their choices and their brands and their things. So being able to compliment that will really help out. You compliment the C-type personality on that, that's not going to work. You want to compliment the C-type, hey, you're always the best thinker. You're always the one that punches holes in things. You're always the one that figures it out. You're always the one that, can think past the stuff we don't think about. Again, it's a compliment, but you're playing towards their strength to be able to gain trust long term. And with the S-type personality, talking about how they're a good person, talking about how they, connect with people so well, talking about how well they're liked, talking about, how they always seem to stay solid in what they do. That's very appealing. You will gain trust much faster. So think about these different things while you're out building a business and you're trying to, build trust to be able to what? To be able to recruit, to be able to sell, to be able to build a business, to be able to bring people along, to be able to promote what you're doing. Trust is super, super important. Getting to the next part, earning trust with others. It says it begins with trusting yourself. Trusting yourself is probably one of the hardest things because most of us, what's happening? Most of us didn't grow up in a super supportive environment. And there are a few people I've met who have, but most people don't. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing that hurts most people in business is not the skill. It's not the skill. It's the internal belief. It's the self-awareness to understand what you can and can't do, what you're good and not good at. but it's also the self-confidence. Self-confidence is so big. The belief factor of, can I do this? Can I trust myself to do this? Can I trust myself to stay on the path, on track? Trust cannot be compartmentalized. I don't know why I can't say that, compartmentalized. Why is that? I think what he's talking about is you can't trust somebody like, oh, well, I really trust this area in business, but I don't trust them in relationships. I really trust them at work, but I don't trust them at home. Like, trust is not something that only fits for one category or another. Now, there are people who are good at something, but trust is different. Will they do what they say they're going to do in every single area of life? 3, trust works like a bank account. And this comes from the principle inside the 21 Laws of Leadership. Trust works like a bank account. The problem with this specifically is, yes, it kind of works like a bank account. It should say it kind of works like a bank account. What happens is, to gain trust, it's like you're adding pennies, right? You're adding pennies. It seems like it takes a long time to add up because everybody's level of trust takes a different amount to get to a point where they trust you. Some people, the I-type personality might be 10 cents. And this would be a good way to analogize, a good analogy. 10 cents. The I-type personality, 10 cents. The D-type personality could be 10, could be 3,000. It just depends on the day and the project. The S-type personality could take $1, could take 5, could take 10. The C-type personality, millions sometimes. I mean, sometimes they just never trust because, they see something, they get a feeling, they'll just hold that area, because of what you're into or because of how you dress or because you did something or treated something. They can see it one time and be like, nope, I'm done. It's millions. Taking forever to gain it takes time because you can't deposit all the money in one day. But you can lose it all in one day. Just as fast as you've gained it, you can make one decision, say one thing, do one thing, change direction, and take all of it away that fast. So it takes a long time to get, it takes no time to lose, and it takes forever if you screw up to rebuild is ugly. So understand that, and you'll have a better understanding of how the just overall trust works. And if you want to build trust with a group of people, what you have to do. So it says, am I adding deposits? So he's got some really good questions here. First, am I making deposits? How do you make deposits in trust? Do what you say you're going to do. Compliment people, understand people, listen to people. These are all part of the trifecta in building trust. Am I making withdrawals? John says most people don't add and don't build trust because they don't have the skill set, because it takes you out of your comfort zone to do it. Most people, your basic human instinct says, take care of yourself. That's your basic human instinct. People are selfish by human nature. They're selfish by human nature because it's self-preservation. So it takes somebody coming along and teaching you to do this. It's not something you're just going to get like that. Am I making withdrawals? He said most people subtract by human nature. They subtract by human nature because they're always out for themselves. So most people can only add trust and add to the relationship if they've been taught how to, and they have to do it consciously and kind of have a plan in mind of how they do it. And to be able to subtract, that's easy. Now, if you subtract long enough, you go from subtraction to division, which means your reputation precedes you and you show up in the room and people are like, yeah, I don't trust that person. So you don't even get a shot at the new person and building trust all over again. That's why it's so hard to rebuild it. Like once you've screwed up, it's very hard to rebuild it, even with a new group of people, if the new group of people know the old group of people. So if you've messed up, number one, apologize. Number two, ask yourself why you broke trust in the first place. Number three, correct the issue. Number four, recognize that it takes longer to restore trust than it does to gain it the first time. And last, remember, trust is restored by good deeds, not words. So trust is basically done by doing what you say you're gonna do, not saying what that was always me. I was like, oh, I'll fix it. Talk. Didn't do anything. That was a problem. And it took a long, long time, and I'm still working on it. Like, it's still not something I have down. Doing these things won't earn you new change, but it may stop you from losing. So, am I compounding trust? How do you compound trust? Compounding trust means you're doing what you say you're going to do, you're adding to people, you're adding value to people, and you're not just helping them, but you're helping everyone extended. When people see that you'll help just to help, you have to be smart about this, because you can help the wrong people, right? We've all went and helped the wrong people that have broken our trust, and then you help them, and then you break their trust, and then you help them, and then you break the trust, and then you help them. And you do it over and over again, and people wonder why. Well, why don't you trust me this time? It's because you've screwed up so bad so many times that everyone else around you sees that. You almost have to start over again. And a lot of times, that's probably the easiest way to do it. Start over again with people you don't know. A friend indeed. So what if you're reluctant to trust others? Certain personalities, probably you're reluctant. How do you start over with somebody? Number one, forgive them. Because you're in the right, you have the power over people. Don't abuse that power. So I think he really gets into, certain people have self-preservation to the point where if they even did anything wrong, and a lot of times this comes from damage from growing up, abusive relationships, abusive childhoods. People lack trust in people, and also people will self-sabotage trust. Like if you've never had that connection, people will sabotage the trust and ruin the trust, so that way they don't have to deal with the future of the unknown, because everybody's always not trusted. Everybody's always broken the relationship. So explain that a violation must never happen again. So you kind of have to identify what happened and say, look, this cannot happen again. Forgiving others doesn't mean allowing them to keep doing it. Like, that's a big thing. Look, this is unacceptable. You cannot do this. If this happens again, so you have to lay the groundwork. There's a book called Boundaries. You have to lay the groundwork. Like, if this happens again, this is what's going to happen. Like, everybody gets a screw up, right? I mean, depending on what it is, but most people get a screw up, and we'll fix that. But it can't happen again. If I see it again, here's how we're going to deal with it. Here's how we're going to identify it. Here's what we're going to do. If it consistently keeps happening, the end result will be, so that way people know where your boundary is and what's going to happen, and you have to live up to that boundary. The moment you don't live up to that boundary, people don't trust you. Remember, there are better moments. So then it's kind of like the compliment, like what we talked about in Confrontation. Look, can I, again, ask for permission? Can I ask for permission? I want to tell you something that you're not going to like. Number one, you're always really good at this, this, and this, but you broke my trust. Remember, keep it to what it is. You broke my trust when this happened. It was the action that did it, not your intention, not your feeling. Well, I didn't mean to do it. Doesn't matter if you mean to do it. You did do this. This is what I'm talking about. Not your intention, not your feeling, not where you're headed. This is what happened. And here's the groundwork. It's unacceptable. It can't happen again. It upset me. Now, the resolution. Here's what we need to do from now on, because, and then you sandwich it back with, because you're always good at this, this, and this. And most people, if you got their permission ahead of time and you phrase it, and if you phrase it and structure it that way, most people are decently receptive. Now, they might be pissed at first. D-type personality is going to get mad first and say no. And I constantly have to check myself and be like, I just told them no, and now I agree with them. But that's part of the personality. The conflict, I want to fight, and it's stupid, it's not worth it, but that's just, how some people are built. So, the bedrock principle says, how does being reluctant to trust others affect someone's ability to connect? If you don't trust, you don't connect. That's basically how it works. What happens to a relationship when one person exhibits untrustworthiness? Well, basically, it's a breakdown of the relationship, right? Hi, Ellen. How are you? 3, think about someone with whom you've spent a lot of relational change. Describe the things. So this is somebody you fed into and fed into and fed into and fed into, and you still got burnt. You know, think about how that works. And we've all had people like that in our life. You know, this is somebody I trusted and they broke my trust. And I trusted and I broke my trust. And it's like you fed the change, and you just didn't get anywhere. You know, and he's like, evaluate that. What will it take to rebuild that if it can be built? What currently is preventing you from doing those things? Broken trust is not always a character issue. Sometimes it comes from a lack of competence or a lack of communication. So certain people grew up in households where timing wasn't important as long as it got done. Timing wasn't important. If you grew up around high I-type personalities, timing is not important. You oh my gosh, you finally did it. You know, you got F's for 10 years and finally you got an A. It's awesome. You know, it's not awesome. You know, you screwed up for 10 years. But the high I, and I'm making like an extreme situation. The high I doesn't value, usually, being on time. They value showing up and being the life of the party. So is that a problem in a household? Well, in a household, it might be okay. As long as the trash got out before the animals come and the insects come, you're usually, you know, doing all right. Although there's 4 bags in your garage, living room, kitchen, dining room. I've seen many versions of this. But at least it goes out eventually, you know, by the time it's supposed to. You know, you might miss the first truck, you might miss the second truck, but within a month it goes out. And I'm not kidding, because I've got friends like this. So it's not a problem there in that situation, because you live there and it's up to the people in that household to decide when the trash goes out. But you transfer that to business, and you do that in business, and you don't show up on time, or don't do what you say you're going to do, or don't follow through, or this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. Now is it a problem? Now it's a big problem, because the people you're dealing with in business didn't grow up in your household, didn't see any of that happening, so you don't know why they're so mad. You don't know why you're not connected. You don't know why this isn't working. Brian's here. What's up? So sometimes you have to take people aside and be like, look, when it comes to business, this isn't acceptable. You might do that at home. You might have grown up that way, but that's not the way everybody else grew up. And this was very common to me because, I don't know, my household, everybody's household is a little weird, but I grew up kind of isolated. I was grounded a lot, and I didn't make the connection that people were doing things so differently. I knew that the result was different. I was like, well, that household seems to run better than ours. I didn't know why. I was like, well, maybe it's because it's on the north side of town instead of the south side of town. I mean, that was my reasoning of why things work better was inaccurate. And that's what I find a lot of times. So sometimes you have to sit down and explain things to people. And again, always ask for permission. Anytime you're going to instruct or talk about a sensitive subject, the best method that I've learned, there might even be better methods out there, is shock therapy. No, it's asking for permission. You know, asking for permission first. So broken trust is not always a character issue. Sometimes it's just a lack of confidence and communication. You've got to actually tell them what's going on. Because there's certain people who are pissed off about what's going on, but they don't say anything to other people. Those people are usually S-type people. S-type personalities tend to hold things in. They don't say what's really going on. They don't say that they're mad. They don't say that they're upset. They let it build, let it build, let it build, let it build. And then they're passive aggressive. They start doing things that come out. And the worst part is they're like, well, this person should know I'm upset. Well, no, that's your fault, not their fault. That's your fault. You are not being clear in your communication. You know, hinting is bullshit. If you're hinting things and expecting people to figure it out, then the problem is you because you're not being clear.
Mm-hmm. Another thing with S-types, only because this is my personality type too, sometimes in the moment, we don't know how to tell somebody without hurting their feelings, because we may be upset, but we also don't want to hurt their feelings. And that's where it comes from. Well, they should know me well enough. They should know I'm upset, or they should know that this is damaging. And until you actually come out and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is something that I had to get good at, because I would just let things build and build and build and build. And then I would come back when I finally blow up and I'm like, this is all the stuff you did and this is why I'm mad. And it took me in, it only came out when I blew up, but it came out at the wrong time. So you got to practice when these little things start coming up, you just need to practice bringing that to that person. Like, hey, just so you know, like, this was the conversation we had the other day, and this just upsetted me a little bit, and I just want you to know, and this is how we can avoid it next time. And then people are like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a big deal. And I'm like, well, it was to me. So this is just how I reacted to it. Let's discuss how we could keep that from happening for next time. So that's a common thing that happens with S-types. So I'll let you carry on.
So what happens when somebody's inner circle contains untrustworthy people? How does it affect the ability to achieve? How does it affect character? How hard does it change? So once somebody is untrustworthy inside of an inner circle, it affects everybody. And if it's not dealt with, here's what people do. People will slowly remove themselves, be busy, not come into the inner circle. But you don't know why. And this happens a lot when friends that kind of cover for other people, you know, they're like, oh, they're my friend, I'll cover for them, it's not that big of a deal. And they cover for them, 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 and then meanwhile, it ruins the relationship with everybody else. And then they don't understand why. They're like, yeah, but it wasn't me. Yeah, but you were covering for them the entire time. You were initiating it. So you kind of have to hold people to a very high standard when it comes to the inner circle. And the inner circle meaning that if you have 100 people on your team and there's 5 or 6 people that get together to make decisions in which direction the team is going, like decisions like when are events and how are events and who's speaking and things like that, and you have somebody in that inner circle that's untrustworthy, it'll be very hard to keep running that team that way. Mm-hmm. Very hard. So with that was a wrap. I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you go cook out and do something fun, get some good food, meet some cool people.
Mm-hmm. And also, if you guys would like the notes for this book, we're taking notes on each chapter. If you would like those notes, I'll put a link in the comments below, so that way you could go subscribe to that. Also, go follow our YouTube channel. Each day we're taking this and we're uploading it to YouTube. And that way, if we have a book that we've already gone through and you would like to go back to it, or there's something that you missed in this show, you could go back to it and take some notes. So with that, happy Memorial Day, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.
Awesome.